Hey everybody, welcome to Work First Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
We both just finished up Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart,
Yep.
which is a damn good video game.
I think it's a pretty good standard Ratchet game.
Well, okay. I think that's a good place to start because
Yeah.
I am not huge on the Ratchet franchise. Like I've
Sure, that's fair.
played 4 or 5 of them. Four of them.
That's enough. I mean,
I've probably played half. I've probably played half.
Sure.
At most half. Versus you, who I know this is like one of the tops for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've played like 9 of them, I guess. It's definitely a really good Ratchet game. I think that one of the things I've always felt with Ratchet games, like they always feel like they're just about to be something really better than like it needs to like burst out of the formula. Like I was waiting for this, like, oh, let's burst out of the Ratchet formula sort of thing. And I think that the changes they made to this game were cool, and I think I like the thing I think the big thing I think actually the biggest thing they did was integrate cinematics with gameplay, which is pretty standard for Sony games, I guess, nowadays. I think that was really, really cool, and I understand like the level switching is cool, but just the standard level design just felt very Ratchet and Clank to me.
I can see that.
To the point where it felt like it was a really pretty game. It played really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, it had really cool characters. A big step up from Ratchet in 2016, thankfully. But at the end of it, I was like, I felt like I still kind of felt like the same I'd gotten playing a lot of Ratchet games. But again, I've played 9 Ratchet games, so if you've only played like, not saying you, but I'm saying if there's somebody who's new to this franchise, this is like your second Ratchet game ever, I was like, I'll bet this is probably the best one. Like easily probably one of the best ones. And like, it was a great game. I just felt a little bit of deja vu as I was playing it.
And I can see that because it does definitely follow the same like planet to planet hopping, and like, yeah, we're doing some different things with like the different dimensions and things there, but it doesn't feel like this huge leap up from some of the time stuff they did in Crack in Time. Because I think they did a lot of similar concepts there, where instead of jumping dimensions on the same planet, you're jumping time periods. So again, I could definitely see there being some similarities there, but I just think the game was so fun to play. Mm-hmm. First of all, just everything was fine tuned perfectly. This was my first kind of real like shooter game with the DualSense. So just the way those triggers worked and everything, like I haven't played Returnal, I haven't played all the ones that are really implementing that well. It felt incredible. And again, just it was a fantastic, well-built platformer, looked incredible. Just it kind of checked all those boxes for me, where it's like, okay, yes, for Ratchet and Clank, it's done some of these things before, but this does all of them near to perfection.
Yeah, I feel like especially with the control, I thought the control of the game, I just remember like when I first started playing, I was like, this feels so smooth.
Yeah.
Like I was like shocked how smooth it felt. Like it's not that Ratchet games haven't felt smooth in the past, but there's just something about the precision I felt. Like it felt almost as good as like a Titanfall game or something like that. There's just something that was so tight about how the controls felt. I was like, oh damn, this is like really, really good. And I like the DualSense stuff is really cool. I think they did some really, really clever stuff with the guns, because when they described it, they said it's like, okay, you press the trigger, you lightly press it to get the primary fire, and you hold it to get the secondary fire. But that's not really the case. It depends on what type of weapon you have. The thing that they did that was really smart is you hold it down halfway for some weapons to aim them better, and then you pull down the trigger to fire. And that felt so good compared to like even just the secondary fire stuff. I thought was pretty cool, but that holding down to aim felt really nice. I like that a lot.
It's like taking the L2 and the R2 and pushing them both onto R2. So it's one motion versus having to click down L2 then click down R2. It's just halfway, there it is, boom, and it just kind of makes it all one nice fluid motion. The bomb glove, I don't remember the name of it, felt really, really good with that.
Yeah, it's funny. I found myself not using the L2 button a lot because of that.
I honestly think I like clicked it once, like halfway through. I was like, what does this do? Like, oh, okay.
It's a little better, but definitely don't need to use it.
But I mean, it's definitely nothing. Like this is a fairly easy game, so it's not like I was ever like stressed out going like, oh man, I got to get more precise. It's a fairly easy game.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into specific scenes just because I do think this has some cool ones, and I don't want to get into spoilers too much here. But I'm going to spoil the tutorial. The tutorial in this game is amazing. We could do a 20-minute podcast, I think, on this tutorial, because everything it does is so perfect. And I almost felt like it peaked at the tutorial.
It does. I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it because I've been a little negative. It's the tutorial is the best part of the game. It's like it's the God of War 3 problem where the God of War 3 opening is amazing, and I think the thing too with the opening of Ratchet, we'll definitely talk a little bit more. It sets up expectations for the game that I don't think the game meets.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, that is fair.
But let's talk about the tutorial because I think it's really cool. I think the idea of it's really neat.
So the general concept is this is a celebration of Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
Right. So it's this big parade that's going through like this incredibly full stands, and like there's all kinds of stuff. You look around, there's ships flying, there's like different levels of people in the stands. Like it looks beautiful. There's confetti flying all over. Like it's the one of the best graphical showpieces I think I've seen on PlayStation 5 up to now. So that in and of itself is cool.
Yeah.
But then like it starts telling you the story of Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
So like you get to the first float and it's like telling you like, oh, here's how Ratchet and Clank got together, and here's this first one, and it starts telling you through the story as you're going through this, which again, for a game that I think had a lot of weird stuff where it's going like, hey, we're going back like 9 years to the PlayStation 3 to pick up a story, is such a cool way to get people kind of up to speed on the basics. Obviously they don't get everything, but you get a lot of the basic gist of what happened in the Ratchet and Clank games up to that point.
Yeah, and the thing is really, I think the thing that was like really fun is like as a previous Ratchet and Clank player is like the idea is that they're going through the floats, and like you said, they start their adventure, and then the parade kind of crashes at like, so the first parade float you jump on is like the first game, and then the parade gets invaded, and you can see this like hints of the second game on the next platform that you never get to, but that's like that was a Gadgetron thing. It was like really cool seeing that, and there's a scene like from Crack in Time, but they don't really mention it. It's kind of, I thought they did some really really clever stuff where a lot of the references direct references they have are not to the games like from Crack in Time and that, but to the 2016 remake, like to the first game, because a lot of people are going to be more familiar with that, which I thought was really smart. I like a lot of more like explicit ones. And the stuff they pulled from the previous game, so like the only thing you need to know is that he's looking for Lombaxes, and there's this thing called a Dimensionator, and that's all you got to worry about. And anything else is just kind of like doesn't matter because it's already established that Dr. Nefarious is a bad guy in the 2016 one, so people know who he is. I just thought it was like really really smart how they played it, because there was just a lot of stuff they could have gone into that they just didn't. They didn't have to. And it felt just fine. Even so. Yeah. But yeah.
Just that whole scene is so well done.
Yeah.
And again, I do think it's fair to say that it peaks there. Like it is one of the top moments in the game. It is what my mind will always go back to when I think of this game, is that moment on that parade and just how that felt, how it looked, everything about it.
Yeah, they wrapped in a lot of cool, and it was like a huge Uncharted cutscene in a Ratchet game.
Yes.
Yeah. And it just felt like it's like from that opening, you feel like, oh, this is going to be a new Ratchet game, something totally different, something you haven't seen before. And then the rest of the game just feels like a standard. And again, it's a standard Ratchet game is a good game. This is probably the best of a standard Ratchet game, but it did to me. It just never after that parade. It just never graphically or anything really just really lived up to that. There seems like it close, but nothing really tops it. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think the one new thing they pushed here is Rivet, and she's on the box, and Rivet is incredible. And one of the things that I thought initially when it happened, because I do think in the series there's a lot of, again from the ones I've played, a lot of splitting up of Ratchet and Clank. And so when they initially did that,
I didn't think about that until
there's a lot where it's like Ratchet does his thing, Clank does his thing, and then we came together at the end. So initially I was like, we're splitting them up. This is dumb. Like at some point just keep them together. But what I thought was really neat is that you put Clank with Rivet and you put Ratchet with Kit, and it's this really cool way to introduce these characters if you're new to Ratchet and Clank. Because you're learning about Clank through Rivet, you're learning about Ratchet through Kit, and you're kind of getting this new picture of these characters through other characters' eyes without it going, Ratchet is a Lombax. Ratchet's
that's
the
a good
last
point. Yeah.
So, again, from a new person coming in perspective, I think that's handled so well just because of the way they mix them up.
Because those new characters have to learn, like they're getting the exposition from the characters. Oh, that's really smart. I didn't think about that. There's a lot of very smart things in this. I felt like I was like a lot of very smart story stuff, a lot of very smart gameplay stuff that I thought they were doing. of like explain to the player without explain to the player, but it's like pointing out things like in the dialogue of like what's important to look at, and that's actually a really good point, something I hadn't thought of. A little bit on Rivet. Rivet is like the best character the franchise has had before.
Yep.
Like easily.
Yep.
To the point where it's like, I think by the end of the game, you're more interested in a Rivet and Kit game. I don't want to talk too much about Kit because I think Kit's like there's too much spoiler stuff associated with Kit.
For sure.
But Clank's counterpart. I'm more excited for a Rivet game than I would be for a Ratchet game.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's a problem or not.
I don't think it's a problem. I think it's almost like, and I can't think of another series that's really switched protagonist and had it work well.
Sure.
But I think making Rivet a more interesting character, I think Rivet fits more of the 2021 model of like a character where like they have depth, they have feelings. Like there's some heavy stuff that goes on with her and frankly all the characters in here. And I think that fits more of what we want a character to be now. When Ratchet started, it was when like we had Mario and Sonic. You know what I mean? It's like our platform characters had a lot of narrative depth to them. So like you're only kind of working with that picture still of Ratchet, and obviously you had the redo in 2016, but it's still just kind of Ratchet. You never really it's Ratchet. Like you didn't Mario hasn't grown Mario hasn't grown as a character since like 1980 whatever. It's just Mario. And I think that Rivet kind of almost points that out, that like Ratchet is just kind of this like, I'm going to go get the Lombaxes. Let's go, Clank. And that's like his personality.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's there's definitely stuff in Crack in Time where they dive a little bit more, but he doesn't really have the depth of a character that Rivet does. Actually, this game reminded me a lot of, I'm going to say this positively because I really do love this game. It reminded me a lot of Jak 2, which when Jak and Daxter moved to Jak 2, they decided like, hey, we're actually going to put like a ton of story in this. Like it's going to be really character focused. A lot of people didn't like it because it didn't work for different ways. But I just felt like there were certain scenes in this that I felt like they took the lore of Ratchet more seriously than they have before. And I really, really like that because like not that I take the lore of Ratchet super seriously, but it's nice to see them. Not everything is a joke. Yeah. This time, not everything is like, there are serious moments. And I think that lets those characters, like you said, have a lot more serious and interesting relationships, that there's more depth, that does a lot more depth to the characters as a result. The one thing I do want to ask though is because this is a multiverse story, which I'm kind of like always like I think I kept going back and forth on the multiverse pairings. So the concept I thought was really cool with Rivet's universe is that Rivet's universe is a universe in which Dr. Nefarious always won. Yeah. And there's a few ways you could play that. You could play that like, well, Rivet wasn't as good a hero as Ratchet. And it's like, no. This universe had just had a much more competent villain, which I just thought was so cool and such a fun way to play it. It's like, and like Ratchet and Clank, like they basically got lucky in their universe with this Dr. Nefarious. There's plenty of other universes with way harder villains out there. And I think that was really, really cool. And I did enjoy that aspect of the multiverse story, that it wasn't Rivet is arguably better than Ratchet, or they're the same, but Ratchet would have also failed in this universe. It wasn't just like because of Rivet, which I really did. I like that play. And
they do a good job with the two Nefariouses interacting, as well as minor spoilers, but they interact. And I think they do a good job of kind of pointing out in their interactions, like Ratchet's Dr. Nefarious is just kind of goofy. It's like you're that goofy, like I'm gonna get them villain. Where it's like, I got serious shit going on over here. Get the hell out of my way.
Yeah, exactly. It was an imposing villain in like a Ratchet game, and it was just cool. It just felt like that whole Rivet world was taking itself a bit more seriously. Not as seriously as Jak 2, which is good, but just serious enough. That I think it had some interesting stuff. I think I was a little bit mixed bag on some of the counterparts. I think they didn't do some of them, they didn't dive too deep. Like Rivet was such a strong character that it was very easy seeing other new characters that just weren't as strong. I think that just kind of is what it is.
And I think that's one of those things too, where you really want to focus in on what's happening with Rivet and even Kit, that like these other characters just become like, oh yeah, they're here too.
Yeah, here's your mission. And, they just
Yep. Here's Quark, but he's not him. Got it. He's red.
yeah, it felt strange. I think this is actually one of the things I think I kind of felt like throughout the game is like some scenes and some characters were done so well that as soon as it faltered from looking super good or being really good characters, you felt it a lot more.
It definitely suffers from being so good. It's one of those things where it's like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10, ooh, 7 out of 10. That's, ugh, what are we doing? Like, why isn't that as good as the rest?
Yeah,
Is I think kind of the feeling you get there and you're getting at. I don't think I noticed that quite as hard because it's just like, oh, this is just throwaway character, whatever. Tell me more about Rivet. How does this affect Rivet? How does this affect Ratchet? How does this affect what happen? And it's like,
yeah,
oh yeah, okay. And again, I think that comes from like not having the knowledge of the series that you do because like some of these
sure.
characters, like, oh, that's another. I didn't even really realize that was a character from like normal Ratchet. So I think some of them just feel like that almost side quest character from like an RPG where it's like my
Yeah,
job in this universe is to tell you to go here. So it's like
sure.
I
Yeah,
don't need a lot of
exactly.
narrative depth for my character who's telling me to go pick up the purple gems.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. I think that's totally fair. I just think I was excited to see some of the counterparts. I think especially Captain Quark's counterpart. He just doesn't get a lot of screen time, and you don't really
No,
get a good sense for him like at all. Like of all of them, that was the weirdest one. I thought like no sense
I
of who the counterpart is.
I definitely had that same feeling too because I expected something from him, whereas like the pirate dude and like the couple other ones that I'm familiar with, it's like okay, like these aren't big characters anyway, but like he is arguably as important as Ratchet and Clank is in this universe, and with the way that
Yeah,
the other games happen with him. So just kind of making him almost like a throwaway, like you get your one little mission, and then we're just gonna kind of ignore you. Felt a little weird, but again, I think that comes from focusing so much in on let's reintroduce
Rivet.
Ratchet,
Yeah,
let's reintroduce Clank, let's really get you to know Rivet and Kit.
yeah, and it seems like it maybe set up for the future kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So I don't know. All things considered, I think this is a fantastic game. I think there's just it does have a couple moments where you're like, we could have done a step up with that, but overall, like this game is just incredible.
yeah.
All right, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.